You won't believe what happened when a Karen called the FBI on my property. Sounds crazy, right? But hold on, the twist is even wilder than you think. It all started when I was just going about my day, minding my business, when this woman showed up at my door, causing a scene like you wouldn't believe. She was convinced I was doing something illegal, and in a fit of rage, she dialed the FBI, thinking she was doing the right thing. Now, here's the kicker. I'm not just some random guy she can mess with. I'm actually the FBI director. Imagine that moment, her eyes widening as I revealed the truth. It was a complete shock to her, but even more shocking was the way she tried to backpedal. But her panic had already set everything in motion, and things quickly escalated. What happens next? How do I handle this situation? And will the FBI be showing up at my door for a different reason? You'll have to stick around to find out. Trust me, this story is just getting started, and you won't want to miss what happens next. At first, I thought she was just some upset neighbor, maybe annoyed by a small misunderstanding. But no, she was adamant, pacing around my front yard, shouting accusations I could barely make sense of. She claimed she saw things happening around my property that seemed suspicious, even though nothing was out of the ordinary. It was clear she had a vivid imagination, or maybe just a bad day, but I never expected her to go as far as calling the FBI. What made it worse was the fact that she wouldn't back down. I tried to calm her down, but she was on another level. In a weird way, it was almost impressive how quickly she went from yelling at me to dialing the FBI. She said she was doing the right thing to protect the neighborhood, but there was something about her that felt off. It was like she had a personal vendetta, and I was her target. As she spoke to the agent on the other end of the phone, I could hear her trying to convince them that I was hiding something big. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity, but then I started to wonder, what if this wasn't just a random act of frustration? What if she knew something I didn't? It felt like things were spiraling out of control, and I wasn't sure how far this would go. The last thing I wanted was for this to escalate any further. I could feel a tension thickening in the air, like something was about to snap. I stood there, arms crossed, watching her as she spoke to the FBI agent with such conviction. It didn't matter that she had no real evidence. She was convincing enough to make them take her seriously. The whole situation felt surreal. How could I, of all people, be caught up in something like this? I wasn't just any regular guy in this neighborhood. I was supposed to be untouchable. But her determination was making things so much more complicated. As she ranted on the phone, I began to wonder, did she have a deeper agenda here? I had been the FBI director for years, and in my line of work, you get to know when someone is playing games. But this woman, with her over-the-top behavior and relentless accusations, felt almost calculated. It wasn't just a random outburst. It felt like she had some kind of plan. I tried to stay calm, but the more I thought about it, the more unsettling it became. What if this wasn't about me at all? What if she was targeting me for something larger, something political? I knew there were people out there who didn't like my position, but this felt personal. My mind raced with possibilities. Was she working with someone? Was there something I didn't know? Just then, my phone buzzed, breaking my thoughts. It was a message from a colleague inside the bureau. "We've got a situation. Stay alert." My stomach dropped. What was going on? Was this more than just a random woman causing trouble at my door? Was I being set up? The pieces of the puzzle weren't fitting together, and I had a sinking feeling that things were about to spiral even further out of control. The message on my phone sent a chill down my spine. Stay alert. It wasn't the kind of message I usually got from my colleagues. Normally, we communicated about cases, protocols, not vague, urgent warnings. The more I thought about it, the less I could shake the feeling that this wasn't just a random confrontation. It was something bigger. I glanced back at the woman, still pacing in front of my house, her phone pressed tightly to her ear. Her voice was rising now, frantic, but she was careful with her words, almost rehearsed. I could tell she was trying to make her case sound more convincing with every detail. I kept my distance, not wanting to provoke her, but my mind was racing. What if the FBI wasn't just responding to her outburst, but investigating me for something? Maybe she knew something about me, about my work, something I'd missed. I looked around, my eyes scanning the quiet neighborhood. It felt like everything had slowed down, like I was the only person still awake in a dream. I knew what it was like to be under pressure, to feel the weight of responsibility on my shoulders. But this was different. I was being pulled into something I didn't understand, something that was unraveling faster than I could keep up with. Then I heard it, the distant sound of sirens. Not just one car, but several. I could feel my heart pounding as they got closer. The woman's eyes flickered to the road, her face a mix of satisfaction and fear. Was this her plan all along? To drag me into something I couldn't escape. As the sirens grew louder, I had a sinking feeling that what came next would be the start of something far worse than I had imagined. The sirens grew louder, and I felt the air in my chest tighten. Every second felt like it stretched on forever. The woman stood there, staring at the road, almost as if she was waiting for the cavalry to arrive. I wasn't sure if she was playing some twisted game, or if this whole thing was spiraling out of her control. But as I looked at her, something clicked in my mind. This wasn't just about me anymore. There was something else at play. I stepped forward, hoping to get a handle on the situation before the sirens arrived at my doorstep. But just as I reached for my phone to alert my team, the unexpected happened. A black SUV pulled up to the curb, blocking the entire street. I could feel my pulse race as the doors swung open. Out stepped two men in dark suits. Agents, but not the kind I was used to seeing. These weren't FBI agents. They were different. They had an air of authority, but also something else, something colder. The woman's face lit up when she saw them. It wasn't relief, though. It was recognition. She stepped towards them, as if she knew exactly who they were. My stomach dropped. There was a connection here I hadn't anticipated. One of the men locked eyes with me. No introduction, no greeting. Just a cold, calculated look that made my heart race even faster. I knew this wasn't just a random confrontation anymore. I wasn't being set up by the woman, and I wasn't the target of some random incident. These men, they were here for something far deeper, something that I hadn't seen coming. And the worst part, I wasn't sure if they were allies or enemies. The air thickened with tension as the woman began to speak with them, her voice lowered but intense. Whatever was happening, I was no longer in control of it, and as the seconds ticked by, I realized just how much trouble I was really in. The tension in the air was suffocating. I could feel my entire body on edge, waiting for the first move, unsure of who these men were or what they wanted. As the woman spoke to them in hushed tones, I began to piece it together. She wasn't just some random troublemaker. She had orchestrated all of this. The call to the FBI, the scene at my door, the arrival of these mysterious agents, it was all connected. One of the men finally spoke, his voice low and controlled. "Director, we need to talk." There was no mistaking the authority in his tone, but what struck me was the lack of recognition. It was as if he didn't know who I was at all. For a moment, I stood frozen. I was the FBI director, the one who gave orders, not the one who took them. But right now, it felt like the tables had turned. He took a step forward, trying to regain control of the situation. "I'm in charge here. Whatever this is about, you're making a mistake." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. I had no idea who these men were, or why they were standing on my property, or why the woman had suddenly become so calm and collected. She knew something I didn't, and that realization hit me harder than any confrontation. Then the final blow came. The other agent, the one standing silently behind the first, pulled out a folder and handed it to me. "We're not here for you, Director," he said coldly. "We're here for her." My gaze shifted to the woman, my mind struggling to catch up with the shocking turn of events. "She's the one you've been investigating, not you." I felt the world tilt beneath my feet as the weight of the situation crashed down on me. The woman, the one who'd caused all this chaos, wasn't just a random neighbor. She was an undercover operative, one I had never even suspected. Just when I thought I had a grasp on the situation, a new shock hit me. The man who had first spoken stepped closer, his voice lowering to a whisper. "And Director, the real question is, do you really think you're still in charge of the Bureau?" My heart stopped. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had always believed that I was at the top of this pyramid, that I was in control of everything. But in that moment, I understood I wasn't, and the true danger was just beginning. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. My mind raced, trying to process what had just happened. I wasn't in charge anymore, not in the way I thought. I had spent years building my career, climbing to the top, but now I realized it had all been an illusion. The woman, the so-called Karen, wasn't just a misguided neighbor. She was a key player in a game I had never seen coming. As the agents moved to arrest her, I felt a strange mix of relief and disbelief. She wasn't my enemy after all, but a part of something much larger, a covert operation I had unknowingly been tangled in. The FBI wasn't investigating me, they were investigating her. She had been a mole, feeding information to a rival faction inside the Bureau. And I was just an obstacle in her way. As the agents took her into custody, I couldn't shake the realization that I had been blindsided. The truth was far more complicated than I had ever imagined. I stood there, staring after them, my world turned upside down. The story wasn't over yet, it was just beginning. And now I had to figure out where I fit into this new, dangerous game.